I have one viewer. We're still waiting for people to show up. I want to have 0. Now we have 1. It'll probably take about 5 to 6 more minutes. Oh, that's echoing. Take 5 or 6 more minutes till everyone shows up. But we can do questions in at drchuck.com or just in the Google Hangout. And let me find. Where am I seeing this? Okay. So I had one too many windows up. Two more minutes. Oh, I see what's going on. Oh, I see what will happen. Cancel. So I think people are going to start joining us now. It's like 9 o'clock, and I can watch 4 chats here. Hello, everybody. Sorry. Oh, we have 6 viewers, so it's a little light right now. I will be watching for questions and answers in the Google Hangout screen. I am watching on the Google Plus, if you're on the Google Plus, and I am watching on Twitter as well. So you can tweet at Dr. Chuck and ask me any questions or make some comments. you guys you don't always like start with questions right away, so I just figure I'll start talking. So welcome everybody. This is my first like early morning weekend, and just my idea is that if I just do everything at 1 p.m. on the afternoon on a weekday U.S. time zone, then I'm really not making it possible for folks in India or China or elsewhere to connect up. And so the idea is early morning U.S. is evening time in the Far East, and not quite New Zealand yet, but New Zealand is like 12 hours away. So so welcome everybody. If this is your first office hours or not your first office hours. A little bit about the philosophy of the course. I try to communicate this as much as I can. The whole idea of the capstone is to get away from the notion of me doing all the lectures and me giving you quizzes and giving you assignments. There are some assignments in the capstone, and you can kind of roar through them if you want. If your goal was to just finish the capstone and get the certificate, we've made that relatively straightforward. You just go and do 3 assignments and then you're done. For those who want to interact with people and get some feedback, we have made it so you can propose a project, and then you propose the project and you do the project, and then you present the project. And there's 3 peer graded. Good morning from Grace. Good morning from Los Angeles. Lynn, you're way early. This 9 in the morning was not intended to get Los Angeles people up at 6 in the morning. So noon in Greece, that made more sense, George. That made a lot more sense to be noon in Greece. That's what I was aiming for, not 6 in the morning Los Angeles. I'll even do weekend things where I move it around on the weekend as well. And so we have a number of assignments that are optional, that are peer presentation assignments, where you give a talk and you show the first assignment is to pick a data source, and there we go. We've started from Kresmir. The first assignment is to the optional assignment is to pick a data source and present it. And my idea there is not just that you would present the data source that you're going to want to use, but instead others might want to use your data source as well. So describe it well enough so others might say, oh, that's a cool data source. That's not, maybe you're working on private data that no one else has. That's perfectly okay. But we would love to see some mixing of people learning from each other and watching each other. And that's why we've got this peer presentation system that we put up. It's brand new. It seems to be working okay. The one thing that I fixed and changed in the last 24 hours, which was I made it so that you could delete and reset your own. And so you can, if something goes wrong, and there have been plenty of going wrong things, if something goes wrong, you can reset it yourself. And so in terms of, George is asking a question, saying, have I had a chance to look at them? And the answer is no, I have not. I've been sort of fixing all the bugs and working on the code, but I and others will be looking at them starting next week. And so I see that we have a couple. Let me go see. We've got, if you go to the one on the data source, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 16, like 20 so far. And so I'm not expecting, we have close to 2,000 people in this class. And I'm not expecting that everyone in the class is going to do a project. I'm not expecting everyone in the class is going to present a data source or even do any of it. I'm hopeful that people who aren't going to do this kind of work will use these presentations from other students as a learning opportunity. And so that's kind of the idea, that we're going to have some students in this class are going to be experts and awesome and literally far more talented than me. I mean, there's no question that there are people in this class that are better at data visualization than me. My expertise is not like I'm the best data visualization person. My expertise is I like to teach Python to beginners and get people to do cool stuff. And then you will come back to me later and say, look, all the cool stuff I'm doing. Could I help you? And the answer is no. I probably can't help you because you're too smart and you've gone way beyond me. I mean, I do stuff, but I don't use Python in my professional life. I use PHP in my professional life. I use Java in my professional life, but Python is a great language for data mining, and Python is a great language for beginning users. And so that's why I love Python, and why I've written a Python book, is because it's the way in, it's the step in, and forever Python will always be the first language that I teach. Until like 20 years from now, there's only one language, and it's JavaScript, and then we'll be stuck with that. But for now, Python is a great first language. And so I am expecting that you are more talented than me, and your contributions to the course will be great, and students will learn from each other rather than, and I'm looking at some of the topics like a global terrorism database. I'm Tim. In my capstone project, I'm trying to figure out whether there's a relationship between NBA's players' sentiment and performance on game day. I want to predict performance. I'm going to guess they're going to cruise through Twitter and pull some data and then correlate that, but just like, whoa, that's really cool. UNESCO World Heritage Sites. I'd like to visualize the locations of the UNESCO sites using an interactive map. Cool. So showing where students are located. And so those are the kinds of things. Data set is the capstone for the Food and Drug Administration's medical adverse event report data. Data set contains a history. Track the popularity of a favorite TV show. Almost last night, I want to go watch this movie called Where to Invade Next, which is a Michael Moore movie. And he has a website that's got all the listings of the theaters, but they're not on a map. And so I was like, I'll write a Python program to read hourly through his little thing, parses HTML. Does it sound familiar? Parses HTML and make a map. And then, of course, I got to call GeoJSON. I got to call the GeoJSON API to resolve the name of the theater and the city and the state. But I have to cache that because there's rate limitations. So does this all sound pretty familiar? Yes, it does. And so that's a little tiny thing. You know, the movie Where to Invade Next.com from Michael Moore. Make a map of where you can go watch that in the theaters right this minute. I'm like, yeah, that's what I want to do. So it doesn't have to be outrageous. Some of them are very, very complex. So someone's going to look at the mail data in their company. That's really cool. That's private data. That's not going to be something they can just share. But we certainly have studied how to do to parse mail data. And so, let's see. I'm sailboat racing early this morning. Okay, Lynn. Hopefully you have decent connections on your sailboat to get enough bandwidth to keep up with our thing. Let's see. Hi, Robin Hood from Olympia, Washington. My question is, am I doing the question right? Do you see this? Yes. I am. Yes, you are. That was an easy question to answer. Morning from Croatia. Good morning from Los Angeles. Good morning from Greece. Outstanding. I got to make a map of whoever is all in there at any given moment. Okay. Okay, George, that's a good question. See, I'm always writing software. You're always giving me challenges, and I got to write more software. What George is asking is, it's really important to give us the option to publish our username when uploading the videos so others can contact us. Okay. Okay, I'll write a note. I get to write more software. I think what I'll probably do, I'll tell you what I'm thinking, George, right now, just kind of thinking out loud. And I'll sort of steal a user interface that we use in the Coursera beta testers situation. And what we're going to do is I may make it so that there is a button to say send email to this person, and it'll be right within the user interface. And that way the person can include their email interface, and then away you go. And so so I think I'll do that. I'll add a mail to this person. And then when I build that, what you can tell me is like, oops, you messed that up, or you need a checkbox or something. So the nice thing about this is the software that we're using is software that I totally control. And so you can make suggestions. I can change the software, and I can figure all that stuff out. And so I will do that. I'll make a mail button because the software does have the capability of mailing. And then if you want something different in that feature, I'll try to have that done in the next couple of days and get you a little mail to button. I'll put that, and tell me what you think. But yeah, just tell me what you think when you get that mail to button. People will have to put their own mailing address in. I'll have to put a little note to that effect. So, okay, I will do that. Hello, Rui. You were on the last one. You were on Wednesday, I believe. What is my suggestion to debug code? Any tool or any plugin that we can use with the Atom IDE? I am not good at that. I use print statements to debug code. I use VI text editor. I am old, and so that's how I can visualize. I tend to find integrated development environments they get in my way. Now, caveat that with the notion that if I was going to write code in one language 12 hours a day, then I probably would use an IDE and a debugger. But the way it works is that if if for me, I'm moving from one language to another, to another, to another, to another, and so I don't have time to learn the IDE for each one because they all have quirks, and so I don't really know the answer. I would say just post that in the forum and see what other people say, because there are other people in here that are smarter than me on this particular topic. So Joseph, I'm trying to put an app that uses Google's location history and location services to help people track how much time they spend working, commuting, but I'm having trouble getting the data easy. Google's takeout is not efficient. Well, Joseph, I've been actually trying to do that. I'm trying to build a tracking application so groups of people can find themselves, and the problem becomes whether or not you're going to have them self-report. Do they have to type in I'm at this address and then hit the enter button, and then do they type in I'm at this address, hit the enter button, or do you want to do implicit tracking? Because if you're going to do implicit tracking, then you pretty much need a mobile application. And so that's the key thing. And I think a lot of folks switch from a website to a mobile application because of tracking. And so I've been playing with that. And if you really want to build a mobile application, and I'm not an expert at all at mobile applications, I'm a beginner, and there's probably people in this class that know far more about it. But I'm experimenting with doing some geolocation tracking using a framework called Apache Cordova. It's an open source framework that allows you to build something that's HTML and CSS mostly, with access to some of those APIs, and then you can track people of course, with their permission, because all those APIs need permissions within each little device that they're running in. So yeah, I had some comments on the gallery. There is no way to know which page I am. You mean in the next and back button, Amr? So you want to, okay, so you want like a page number on the next and back, okay? Page number on the next and back. Yeah, I know. I had that same kind of problem where, if you're in a long list of things and you click on something and you don't get back to where it's at, and so okay, I can certainly give you a page number. That's just code. I can write that code. And there's got to be page number and jump to page. I got a search box, but that doesn't necessarily get you because you won't know what to search for. So we'll do that. Hello from Brazil, Lissandro. Good morning. Here in south of Brazil, it's 10:15. What do you think about the use of the PyCharm IDE? Well, same question. I don't use them, so I don't know. I just don't. Um, I don't know. So good luck. Maybe someone should type it. That'd be a good class. A whole class on nothing but IDEs, right? So here's a Python class. I'm one of the comments that came up was to teach a class on object orientation. And one of the reasons I don't get too obsessed with object orientation is I don't want to sort of jam it down anyone's throat when they're not ready for it. And so you imagine there's this course that has this sequence, and my question is, as a designer of that sequence, where in the sequence does object oriented belong? And one of the thoughts is it doesn't belong at anywhere in the sequence. It's like outside the sequence. And then the question would be similar about like what IDE to use. And there could be a class on different Python IDEs. And then what you'd say is, where in a class on Python does the conversation about IDE belong? And the answer is nowhere in the sequence, but anywhere in the sequence. So it's like another course that just sits outside that sequence. And then what would be really cool is if we could come up with a way that you could all demonstrate, so that instead of like I have to become the expert in Python IDEs, we could have this class and it's really nothing more than you doing demonstrations of the IDEs that you like. That'd be really cool. I don't think WarpWire would work for that. WarpWire is probably better for short little things. I'll check with them. You'd have to upload it, but it might be by then, once you're just demonstrating your favorite IDE, might just be just as well to put that on YouTube, unless of course you're in a country that that suppresses YouTube. So that'd be another thing. I like the MashMe collaboration site. You can see each other. Have you checked that out? It's under resources, third party. I wonder if this can be used with office hours. Everyone can see everyone. See, this is what I like about constructive. So I'm going to go to Capstone site. And I'm going under resources. There we go. Under week 1 in the wiki. So under resources, you can find the week 1, and we may have to reorganize this. A lot of unnecessary clicks, but here you go. Here is a link to the wiki. Wait a sec, I'm not seeing it. Robinhood, I'm not seeing student contributed notes. Oh, student contributed notes. I went to the wrong place. Sorry, I went to my thing. Student contributed notes, week 1. Student contributed. Where did I'm not seeing it. Third-party tools. Georgie, you're making me write a lot of code. Sorry, I'm scrolling through the week 1 third-party tools MashMe. Resources, student contributed notes. Week 1. I'm not seeing it in the wiki. Well, let me go read about MashMe. Yikes, MashMe.what? Oh, MashMe is a multi-device video chat with lots of people. Oh. So you're saying to do this for the office hours or to do this for just to set it up so people can just wander in there to find each other? So which is it? Any week should have comments. The bottom is third-party tools. Shows how much I don't know about our own user interface. The bottom is third-party tools. The bottom is third-party tools. I don't understand. Course info? No, resources. MashMe TV. Thank you, Julianne. Yeah, okay, that. So the question is, are you saying this should be for office hours, or should this be for something that I point to for people to find each other and work together? Yeah, so Joseph, cordova.apache.org. I've done mobile app development with Java, and I've done a little tiny bit with Swift, and I find them both very frustrating. And Cordova, I think, for really simple things, I think Cordova is going to be better for all of us. So that's my hope. I mean, I haven't gone far enough down Cordova to know that I can accomplish what I want to accomplish, because I've been working so hard getting the rest of the semester on campus and the capstone and everything. In a couple of weeks, it'll be summer, and I will be able to write code like crazy at that point. And so I will probably work on Cordova over the summer. Yeah, and so in terms of the MashMe thing, I have really wanted to come up with something that allows serendipity. And is a MashMe thing free? Pricing free, 10 hours a month, mobile apps up to 5 participants, 2.5 WebRTC mode. Yeah. Let me work on that. I got some friends who have this thing called Looid, LOOWID.io. But okay. Mashme.tv. Is there a way to get like a URL? Yeah, is there a way to get URL that's like just us? 5 participants, does that mean 5 participants simultaneously? 10 hours a month, that seems like kind of harsh, because 10 hours a month, if we're sharing one, is going to be, so that's the worry I have with some of these things. But okay. I always get so many good ideas from you. But that's actually part of this. Part of this really is the notion that we are going to figure out together new ways of teaching and learning, right? And so for me, yeah, Python's great, and we're going to learn Python, and that's fine. But I also am really, really, really interested in these new forms of teaching. And you folks in this class are the ones that are in the vanguard. I mean, you're really in the vanguard, because in a sense, you know, you are 1 in 1,000, because over 200,000 people have touched the first bit of the first class, and less than 2,000 made it to the end. And so that's 1 in 1,000. And so those of you who have made it this far, we have to learn from each other, because it's a brave new world out there. And so that's why I spend as much time as I do sort of trying to understand this and working with you and listening to you and trying to innovate and build really cool stuff, and then you help me build really cool stuff. What my real dream is that eventually you will be able to write some of this learning software, but I got to teach my PHP MySQL class. Oh, I have such a busy time this summer. So Robin Hood says that he used, and apparently that's his real name, 007 Robin Hood is his handle. He used PyCharm through all 5 classes. I liked it better than Atom because it has more convenient features. Yeah, and so it sometimes locks things. Yeah, I mean, the reason that I push Atom is not because I think it's the most awesome and best, but because in the very beginning I like consistency, and I want something that's going to work on Linux, on Macintosh, and on Windows equivalently. And so when I do a screen recording, that screen recording is relevant. And if I'm using an IDE, that's it. But I am totally happy if people switch to using an IDE the moment after they get done with, watching that thing, and they're done with the first 8 weeks of class, and they're like, okay, I'm done with this. I'm going to switch to an IDE. Okay, so there we go. Under general discussion now. Okay, let me check to see if there's any questions here. Okay, no questions there. Let me check to see if Twitter has any questions. Stacy asks on Twitter, I can use the class sources, but I don't understand the code. Do you have suggestions for other courses? That's a really good question, because there we go. So that's a really good question, Stacy. The thing to do, I think, is if you're started this course as a beginner and you sort of made it all the way through, and we give you a lot of scaffolding. So one of the things that's different about this course than most beginning programming courses is the extent to which we give you scaffolding. And I'm a big fan of getting scaffolding because I'm a big fan of believing that until you're doing something kind of fun and interesting and useful, you're not going to understand programming. And so if we stop you at before you have the big picture and force you to become a super awesome programmer, then you're going to not like it because you haven't figured out why it's awesome. So if you think about finishing the last 3 assignments of this capstone, and you say, okay, I just did a page rank and a Google Mail, and I pulled down a gigabyte of data, and I visualized it with JavaScript, and like I didn't understand a lot of what I did. That's by design. The idea is now that you're at the point where you are like, programming is cool and it's worth learning and it's worth digging in more deeply. The right thing to do at the end of this class, if you started this class as a beginner, now some people are already sophisticated programmers and they already know 4 languages and they're just learning Python. That's a different scenario. But if this was indeed your first language and you want to get better, the right thing to do is to actually take another beginning language. And this is why I so heartily recommend the Rice Python class, because the Rice Python class is a beginning class. The difference is it's a hard beginning class versus a beginning class with a lot of scaffolding. And so if you take the Rice class, you'll be like, oh, they're teaching me variables. And then you look at the assignment that's in the Rice class, you're like, oh, this is a really hard assignment, and that's what you need, actually. What you need is to do the same thing we just did, except with little or no help. And you will struggle. And you'll be like, look, in Chuck's class, I did a PageRank algorithm. Look how awesome that is. And the answer is, well, kinda. You learned about PageRank algorithms and you played with PageRank algorithms, but what you didn't do is write it from scratch. And so what'll happen is, in say the Rice Interactive Python class, you'll write it from scratch. And so that's why I always recommend a beginning class. And it doesn't have to be a Coursera class, but go back to the beginning and don't pretend that you are sort of this far in, and then you're going to pick up from there, because it's going to be painful for you to, it'll be painful for you to, you know, pick up a secondary class or a more advanced class, because you just aren't strong enough if you were a beginner at the very beginning of the very first class. Oh yeah, Kresmir. Were you in the Kresmir? I think you were in the Wednesday class as well, or Wednesday thing as well. Yeah, everybody in that, and everybody at University of Michigan, and Stephanie Balagot, everyone says that I should just do PHP, my PHP class, and so I will. It's like in 2 weeks. In 2 weeks, our on-campus classes are over, and I got a whole summer, and so I will be recording PHP and MySQL as rapidly as I can. And you can go and see a preview of that at www.php-intro.com, php-intro.com. And Slack, I still have to get back to Slack, and I haven't done anything with that. I'm not an expert on Slack, but I will get back to it. The first thing I had to do was to make it so that you could delete your own submissions to the peer grader, and I did that. So I would like thawingstreamharukoapp.com Python project. What does that mean? I'm going to click your link here, Robin Hood, and I'll see what happens in my screen. Hopefully you're not spamming me. So what is this, Robin? What is this thing we're looking at? Of course, no one can see it. So you made a Heroku app that, does it? Okay, I gotta remember this. You wrote, did you write, what's this written in? Robin? Could we open the project deadline a little bit for the peer reviewed? Okay, so that's from Amar. There is no deadlines. There's just 6 weeks, and I tried to make it 8 weeks. Let me write that down. I tried to make it 8 weeks, but somehow some weeks got collapsed. The only deadline is 6 weeks. That's the only deadline that matters. The days that you do it. Let me try to get back to 8 weeks, but somehow it seemed like when we published it, some weeks got collapsed. And so here is that link. What happened, Robin? Okay, let me put that link in a page. So Robin, the fact that you wrote this Heroku app that gets us all into Slack, that's like the coolest thing ever. Okay, and is there any chance that I could get the source code to that? Is there any chance that that's written in PHP? So the only thing that Coursera and University of Michigan would be a little nervous about is putting in your server putting the email addresses for everybody everybody in. But frankly, if it's in the discussion and people start clicking on it, oh well. But you know what? I would love to have that in general. And so, yeah. Let me go on my email. Let me see if I'm in that Slack now. Mail. Go to email. Come on, Slack. Not that. Not that. Well, I'm in your Slack now. Skip the tutorial. There we are. Yeah, I probably need to do this. There we go. I'm in Slack. Is there an API that makes this really easy to do? So send me email. You can figure me out. I'm csev@umich.edu. So send me some email, Robin, and let me borrow this code from you if you would be willing, because I'll make a little LTI tool that anyone can use in any class, and then we'll be good. Because in particular, if I make an LTI tool, I know what your email address is, and I can auto invite you to Slack automatically, and then people, all kinds of people at the university could make use of this, right? If I build a tool that sort of met the privacy requirements of people at universities, then that means that it's instead of being a one-off that we're just going to make work, it is something that we can keep on doing. So I'll try to make the project deadline is extended even beyond 6 weeks if I can. George, how do you plan to keep us busy after the capstone finishes? Oh, yeah, I'll tell you how I plan to keep you busy after the capstone finishes. We have reached the level of skill that I have in Python. Really, we have, we've reached the level of skill that I have in Python, and so I don't think that I can keep you busy in Python much more. That's why I want to do PHP MySQL. And the cool thing for me about PHP and MySQL is this is unlike Python, where I'm kind of like a teacher of Python, I code professionally continuously in PHP and MySQL. So if we get through those classes, where I'll drag you next will be something I'm good at, right? And then the next thing that I would like to teach after that would probably be Java, because then I code professionally in Java as well. And so what happens is that my skill in Python just kind of, we're running up to the edge of my knowledge in Python because I don't do enough professionally in it. Whereas when I get you in PHP and MySQL, then it's like, okay, we can go a long, long, long way in PHP and MySQL. They're just web applications. There is just an infinite number of awesome things. So Rui just started a thread on the forums about IDEs. That's great. You know what you might suggest is that people do little YouTubes on the forums, and send them up. Okay, so it's on Heroku, but your app could be doing it. That's what people will freak out about. There are lots of people that put learning apps on Heroku, and then everyone gets all freaked out about that. But we can fix it. We could use a TeamSpeak server. Well, there's another thing. I mean, there's this thing called Loowid, L-O-O-W-I-D. But all those things have all kinds of little problems. But I think the Slack is probably the way for us to find our way into all these other things. Yeah, there we go. Oh, the questions are fast and furious. Wow. If everyone could see each other in office hours, we have 28 viewers, so that's the problem. So we have 26 viewers in office hours. I don't know how to fix that, right? If we went on lots of systems like fail, including Google Hangouts, fail. So I think the right thing to do would be to get us maybe this Slack thing. If I can get this Slack thing to the point where I'm happy with the privacy issues, and then people could make Google Hangouts, and maybe we could come up with a way to, well, those in Slack would then be able to broadcast that they're going to do a Hangout, and then the Hangouts could have 14 or 15, 10 or 12 people in it. So it would be nice though. So here's an idea. So here's an idea that I want to explore, and that is when I do office hours in the future, I will want to invite some people as I look over some of the project plans, and maybe I'll even start doing this as early as next week, look over some of the project plans and then invite 4 or 5 people to office hours. And so we could have like the little strip down at the bottom where you have 4 or 5 people in office hours, and then at least I can have guests, right? And that solves the problem of not letting 40 or 50 or 200 people in, which would overwhelm the situation, but instead I can switch between them. So I will have guests. And when I find some good examples of presentations, then I will bring those folks in, and then they can contribute as well. Oh, you made it, man. So put that in the forum too, Robin. Put that in the forum too. I better not go into that forum. I better not go in because that might mess up my camera on my Google thing. So we'll figure this out. Oh, but you see, I got to be able to tell people what that is. See, there's where Slack would be good, right? People could have a couple of different things. You paste that into Slack, boom, and there it is. There you go. Delete. Oh, so Kresimir, you have asked an outstanding question. Thanks for the Python class. I'm starting to become a web developer. I'm looking forward to PHP and MySQL. Since I will study JavaScript backend and other Coursera specializations, I want to know your thoughts on Node.js versus PHP. That is the ultimate question. I believe, just kind of reading the tea leaves, that ultimately in 15 or 20 years, JavaScript will be the only remaining language standing. And so while I love Python as a start, JavaScript is absorbing all of the good things that other languages have. And I think that, that JavaScript is going to be great. I'm using Node.js. The 3 environments that I like are for web development are PHP, Java. I like Java less and less. I use it because professionally I have to, and Node. Now, some people, they like Python. I get that, and I just don't find Python very natural in the web space. But people love it, so that's okay. But specifically Node.js versus PHP. I think that the right first web language for everyone to learn is PHP. And the reason for that is if you learn something like Ruby on Rails or even Node.js, there's a lot of magic that's going on. And it's really nice to work in magical environments that really make your productivity go up. The danger is if the first thing you learn is a magical environment that hides way too many details from you and you don't understand what's really going on, and you start working in one of these more magical and productive environments, then you're not able to debug when things go wrong, and things will inevitably go wrong. And so you're sort of this savant where you can write code, but you can't debug code. And you're sort of like in this little padded cell world, and you can't, you view source or you look at the developer console and you don't know what it's saying, because it's like, I did this magic thing and this thing shows up on my screen and I don't exactly know the magic in between those things, like Angular and these other things. They just lock down too much of the mechanics. And so when you learn PHP, it doesn't mean that you're going to write PHP the rest of your life. And so I think that a really nice progression is learn PHP. And when I do my PHP MySQL class, it is going to be it's not going to teach you any more than it needs. We're not going to learn how to write the world's most sophisticated application. We're going to learn every aspect of what a web application is, how browsers work, how JavaScript works, how Ajax works, what JSON is. all those things. But that's just to get to the point where you have a picture of the complexity, potential complexity of of a web application, and the fact that here's a piece and here's a piece and here's a piece, and they work together this way and this other way, so that you understand how those pieces work together. And then once you want to get really sophisticated, you're like, okay, I'll go work on Node, or I'll work on something else, or I'll work on Scala or whatever. But I think PHP is the way in. It's like in the old days in computer science, C was the way in. It's not the language you want to use for everything, but it is a language that teaches you what's really going on. And so PHP is like the language that teaches you what's really going on in the internet. And you can do a lot of great stuff with PHP, and I love it. And all the software that you're using is in PHP, and that's because I want it to be agile and I want it to be approachable by average developers. And so there's plenty to be said for writing PHP because the servers are cheap. It doesn't use much resources. It's real easy to host the stuff. I mean, I run all the software for those classes on dirt cheap servers that require very little resources, and so that's why I love PHP. Like I said. And then you go to Node, you grow up to Node, and there are things that PHP doesn't do that are really annoying that that Node does better. And so that's where, when I'm done with PHP, the next class I'm going to teach will be a Node class. And so if you're learning PHP and then going on to a Node class, then you're following exactly the path that I would recommend. So great question, Chris Muir. Yeah, George, mark a video that you've already seen. Actually, I have that data in a database. Seen videos. I can do it. I can do it. Actually, no, I can very easily note the ones that you've rated. So I'll do that. I'll note the ones that you've rated, so that once you rate it, that'll actually be a mark that will be in the gallery mode. So you'll see the ones that you've rated. I might even get that done by this afternoon. Aideen, thank you for the compliment. Thank you for the compliment. I'm not sure that I'm not sure what else I'm good at, but I do love to teach. So I'm trying to build a geolocating service, based on mountain ridge analysis and photos to analyze where it was taken. In order to do so, I'm using an elevation database to calculate and display each mountain ridge based on any location. What do you think, Alex? Alex, I think you're smarter than me. That's what I think. And I think it's a wonderful thing. That sounds hard. Image processing is always harder than it looks. And so, keep your expectations low and focus on small accomplishments, and let us know how it goes. Again, it's an example of like, I am not the smartest person in this class. Joseph, since a tracking app requires a mobile app, would I be better off using an Arduino-based project I'm working on? Oh, where do you? Commercial refrigeration for my capstone, and pull data from a fridge and national weather and create an SQL database. That sounds kind of interesting. It's kind of like the Nest thermostat that knows what the temperature is and anticipates a little bit and does some optimization. The one thing that you might start with that refrigeration question and weather is you might start working, instead of sort of a tool that turns the refrigerators on and off, but instead work on analyzing the data and producing a model. And coming up with a way to run a simulation, say, okay, this is my model. I will look at the historical data, and then I will do some kind of prediction, and then come up with a model for how much you save based on decisions that you make, and then tune the model. And then you got the data, you've got the actual performance, and then you sort of have this anticipation. So, yeah. What do I think of Perl? A lot of people think that Perl is really amazing, and Perl 6 just came out. You can get it running already. I have never warmed up to Perl. And the reason is that I like there's lots of languages that I don't warm up to. And all the languages that I warm up to are the languages that have roughly equivalent structures and roughly equivalent ways of thinking. One of the famous sayings is a good Fortran programmer can program Fortran in any language. And that kind of describes me. If I don't have ifs, and I don't have loops, and I don't have like a stir index to look things up. I mean, I can do that in JavaScript, I can do that in Java, I can do that in Python, I can do that in PHP. And so, yes, I have to get the syntax a little bit different, but the way you abstractly construct code in those situations is roughly equivalent. And the problem I have with Perl is that Perl is much more declarative, using more punctuation as action, which is kind of like more of a regular expression language turned into insane craziness. And so my problem with Perl is not that I don't like it, because a lot of the things that I like in languages like PHP and Python actually came from Perl. And so, you know, there's great things in Perl. Perl is very succinct, and Perl is very file-based, less database-based, and it's a real awesome thing. And, you know, in a way, all the modern languages, including Ruby on Rails, benefit greatly from Perl. I just can't handle the switch from a non-Perl language into a Perl language and to be productive fast enough. So I always coding off for a month, coding for a week, off for a month, and I just can't get that to work with Perl for me. Got nothing against it. So, oh, we got more people in the Slack. One of the cool things about like Perl is that all these languages are competing with one another, and so to the extent that Perl 6 brings something to the party, it means that PHP and JavaScript and everybody else is going to have to react. Another language that I haven't warmed up to is like Scala or Go, but they have certain computational models inside them that are very advantageous. And the way I think of those is that there will be like a whole bunch, you know, 98% of the people use PHP, and then 1% uses Scala, 1% uses Go. And the PHP people are like, what do these people like about Scala and Go? And then, oh, they like these two features. And they'll be like, oh, okay, we'll just drop those back into PHP as some kind of cool advanced multiprocessing library or something. And so what happens is all these little languages that pretend that have some advantage, they tend not to have that advantage forever. And the more traditional languages like JavaScript and stuff pull those features back into their languages so that those languages evolve. And so it's unlikely that people are going to stop using PHP because of Scala. It's more likely that all the good stuff of Scala will be stolen and pulled back into PHP. And you can see this in Python when you look at, say, Lambda expressions. So I think that in ways, Lambda expressions in Python are kind of like Perl, in that they're more closed forms, they're more expression of what's supposed to happen rather than how to make it happen. And Lambda expressions in Python are something that people have told me that I should add, but it's just like object orientation. But when do you tell people about Lambda expressions? And when do you decide that from beginning to end, the Lambda expressions are here at position 7? And I think the answer is they're not. Lambda expressions are something that when you're ready for them, you love them. But until you're ready for them, you're going to hate them. And I don't know when you're ready for them. So I'm thinking that Lambda expressions are like just out here, like object-oriented programming, that you go do it, and then you're like, oh gosh, where have you been all my life? So that's the problem with something like Lambda expressions. And the same is true kind of for Perl, is that if the model sinks into your head, which it's never sunk into my, Lambda expressions have sunk into my head, but not Perl in general. So. George. Thank you, George, for the comment. I'll just read it for everybody. Funny thing, 3 months ago, I was just wishing I were a programmer. Today, I've already written my own. First owned 360 lines of code for the main Capstone project. It's called RDBMS, and it's a command line database, retro-like. We'll be uploading videos soon. You know, George, that is a beautiful program to write, right? And because this isn't a computer science class, but a simple thing where you can kind of like have some in-memory data structures and some lists and dictionaries, and you can do an insert, you can kind of do a select. Really crude. That is a beautiful thing where you have a little loop and you're prompting for a command and your data is changing internally. That I'm looking forward to that. That is a great project. That's an absolutely great project. And another simpler version of that, of course, is like a calculator project that has variables in it. You know, you say, and then the next thing you write is a project that's like a mini Python where you say x equals 5 and then print x. Oh, hey. Holy crap, Robin, I should just give you a root account on this class, Robin, and you should just edit the whole class for me. Come back. The auto enrollment for Slack invitation. Oh no, I'm sort of distracted. That's like a shiny object. I'll just record that. Thank you, Robin. I will try to, maybe I'll have that written by tomorrow. So, yeah. Another thing I want to write, like PHP, MySQL, JavaScript, jQuery, JSON. Then I want to write a Node.js class, and then I want to write a computer science class where we actually have fun to learn computer science ideas. Oh boy. And then Kepler 22b. I'm planning to do a double major, but I'm a bit confused. Should I double in computer science and mathematics, or should I double in computer science and physics? I want to know which one has more worth in the future. Well, I have no idea which one of those things. I love the notion of computer science plus something. And the key thing, I think, if you do computer science with nothing next to it, is that and I've met students who are 4 years into a computer science degree, and they have amazing techniques, like woo, right? They have all these amazing techniques, but they don't know what to chop up with their amazing computer science karate. And so it almost doesn't matter as long as you are doing something interesting in it. Between mathematics and physics, all else being equal, I will kind of say physics because some of the best computer scientists I've ever met are physicists. And so mathematics, there's not so much computing in it, but physics is tons and tons of computing. And some of the things I've learned in computer science, I've never learned from a computer scientist. I learned from physicists. So I've had a number of great mentors as physicists. They will teach you things from a perspective that you can't understand. How much data they have. If you think about CERN and one of the friends, and if you saw the Dr. Chuck Sings the Blues, you see me hanging out with a CERN physicist. And so those people, yes, they know about physics, and yes, they know about quarks and leptons and hadron thingies and Higgs bosons and stuff like that. But the way they know that is through programming, and they do visualization wonderfully. And so if I had just a flip of the coin between mathematics and physics, I would tend to lean toward physics, just because they're great programmers in physics. They're so smart. In previous classes, we used Firefox as SQLite manager with no issues, but in the Capstone's first assignment, the app didn't like adding the full HTML text to the web pages to the column. Database browser works. Okay, so why don't you get that in a forum, because that might have to do with UTF-8, and we might have to do, and the other questions are using Python 2 or Python 3. I guess you're probably using Python 2 if you're using my code. That would probably have to do with a string or a buffer that was missing. So why don't you put that question in, the exact lines that are blowing up, put them in the forum, and let's see if we can't figure that out. Because the management of normal ASCII text and UTF-8 is always kind of problematic in Python. And so we might have missed something in the code. Yeah, I also saw the 13-year-old pre-presentation of the 13-year-old boy. That's really cool, and the MOOCs are amazing. And the interesting thing about MOOCs that, I've been doing this since 2012, since 3 months after they started this in Stanford. And I in all that time, I didn't believe that MOOCs were going to do much to change actual on-campus education. But increasingly, as I look at MOOCs for the next 5 to 10 years, I think that they're going to change how we think about on-campus education. I think that they're going to greatly improve on-campus education, and we're going to I want to pull all the skill kind of classes like Python programming, PHP, and all that, pull that out of normal curriculums and just get that done by MOOCs. I honestly think MOOCs are a better way to teach certain material like this than on-campus classes, for a lot of reasons. Actually, I'm going to be in Estonia next week and talking about that at a keynote. So if you're from Estonia, there's only 27 of us, so probably no one from Estonia. I will have some live face-to-face office hours. So. Yeah, so Barry, just put that in the forum, and we will try to do our best to figure that out. It's probably the addition of a stir, or and it might have to do with how your setup is for UTF-8, and whether it's bytes or not. We're running out of time, and we got a ton of questions. Oh, greetings from Buenos Aires. Hello, Alejandro. I hope I said that right. Will we in the capstone learn how to use remote databases? No, I don't have any plans for that, but I'd be curious, because that would be a fun thing. If you could sort of draw my attention to what you mean by a remote database, because we certainly talk to remote APIs, right, the JSON and stuff like that, but a remote database would be pretty awesome. Yeah, okay. Wow, we're running out. What about using Python for the Internet of Things? Oh, Nipun, I'm a bit of a curmudgeon in the Internet of Things, although I do have a Nest thermostat. Did you see the thing where Google bought a company that was an Internet of Things company and then like shut it down, and like all the stuff just like, so yes, I think that'd be fun. It's but that's sort of like a hacker makerspace thing, rather than I just don't think Internet of Things is as profound change to the world as a lot of people think, but that's okay. It's okay. Wow, there's lots of questions. Dave, in terms of the foreign function, I think that the foreign function stuff is something that when you run into it, you got to learn it. But I don't think it's something that's really all that core to Python in general. It's just that's just how stuff works. So what do you think, Pearl? Python project would be SNMP. I saw that one too. It's kind of an ethical question. I'm not sure. Can I use the data that used in a competition that I want to join for my project? So Mingyu, the key to ethical questions is it depends, right? If it's education, if you have possession of the data and you legitimately have possession of the data, you certainly can't you got to worry about who you share the data with in terms of ethics. If you're summarizing it and you're not revealing, so the ethics that's a good question. Usually you just have a gut feel like, oh boy, that's bad, or that's good. Yeah. Make the PHP class as fast as possible. Okay. Well, we're about out of time. I'll leave you with one small little thing, and that is, even though you all want me as fast as possible to do the PHP class, I just this week put up a draft version of. You go to www.pythonlearn.com/ actually no. The best way to do it is to go to amazon.com and type in Python for everybody. Amazon.com and type Python for everybody. And what you'll find, I'm not sure I just got this done less than 2 days ago. So it may not be, it's only in Amazon US, hasn't made it to Europe yet, but you will see a draft of the Python 3 version of the textbook. And so if you go to, you can see that. And if you go to www.pythonlearn.com/book, you can see the effort that we're doing to translate the book into Python 3, and you can download a free copy of all that stuff from my build server and EPUB or PDF, and you can even help me fix it, right? So if you want to, you can, it's in GitHub, it's open, you can send pull requests to it, and a whole bunch of people have been helping me fix the book. And so there's all the code. I've got the Python. The code's all converted to Python 3, the sample code. You may or may not have seen it, but at the bottom of the autograder, there is a little thing to switch to Python 3, so the autograder can switch to Python 3. So I'm getting ready to Python 3ize the course, and so you can find all the little hidden Easter eggs with the Python 3 version. Okay. And it'd be great if you could help me go through that book and look for typos and send me pull requests, or just if you have a GitHub account, you can actually just hit the edit button and it'll send a pull request automatically. So it's really easy to send me patches to the book and get credit for it in GitHub. And so you are pretty awesome folks. You all know my material really well. It would make a lot of good sense to have you people be the ones that review the book and find everything wrong with it. But and you can buy it. It's still a draft, but you can pay $9.99, and of course you can get the book for free. And so on that note, I'll sign off and say thank you for coming. And I will have another one of these next week. I'll try to make them early morning, midday, and late, sort of rotating through just to make sure that we hit all the time zones. Okay. So cheers. See you on the net.